Welcome to True Talk. This is your host, Samar Jarrah. My co-host and I are doing this show live, and we're very pleased that we were able to raise funds thanks to all of you. I guess you all know how important it is to have free speech in America. Thank God we have WMNF, and thank God we have all of you to help us and to keep this station on the air. It's very, very vital in these difficult times to have freedom of speech. I want you to enjoy this music by Maher Zain. Ahmed and I and another billion Muslims are celebrating Ramadan or fasting Ramadan, and this is what we're going to be talking about very soon. This is True Talk on WMNF 88.5 FM, and this beautiful song is about Ramadan.
High, you spread my wings and fly me to the sky. I feel so alive. It's like my soul thrives in your light. But how I wish you'd be here with me all year around. Ramadan, 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 ya Habib. Ramadan, Ramadan, ليتك دوما قريب. Love is everywhere. So much peace fills up the air. Ramadan, month of the Quran. I feel it inside me, strengthening my iman. But how I wish you'd be here with me all year around. Ramadan, 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 ya Habib. Ramadan, Ramadan, ليتك دوما قريب.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Maher Zain. The song is called Ramadan, and I'm very pleased to say that I have with me my co-host Ahmed Bedier. Ramadan Kareem, ya Ahmed. Where is Ahmed? Ahmed? Okay. I can't hear you.
I just love the way you make me feel. Every time you come around, you breathe life into my soul, and I promise that I'll try throughout the year to keep your spirit alive. In my heart it never dies. Oh, Ramadan.
hope you enjoyed this song, and I'm waiting for my co-host Ahmed. Can you hear me? Okay, let's take another break because I'm not sure why I can't get my go.
You make me feel every time you come around. You breathe life into my soul, and I promise that I'll try throughout the year to keep your spirit alive. In my heart it never dies. Oh, Ramadan.
Okay, Ahmed, are you in?
Yes, I'm here.
I'm not sure why I wasn't hearing your voice.
Maybe it's Ramadan effect.
I woke up very early, and I did not have suhoor. I'm sure you did, but maybe this is why. But I was saying Ramadan Kareem or Ramadan Mubarak. Some people used to say Ramadan Mubarak, but not, I think, when Mubarak was the president of Egypt. So people started to say Ramadan Kareem, but this is what we're going to be talking about. So anyways, how is your Ramadan so far?
So far, we're on our 5th day. This is day 5, I guess, or day 6.
No,
it started on Saturday.
So
we started
Saturday,
on
Sunday,
Saturday.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Is today? Oh, today's 6th day.
Today's 6th day.
Oh my gosh, we're not. It's obvious that it's taking a toll on both of us, but it's the beginning because we're supposed to be fasting 30 days.
Right. Well, there's usually kind of a adjustment period the first couple of days. It's definitely an adjustment because it changes your whole schedule around your routine, things you're normally used to eating and drinking during the daytime. Now that's flipped upside down, and you do that in the evening. And so, having your morning coffee, your routine, or your tea, or is not the way you start.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. What is Ramadan?
Ramadan is a month of fasting. It's part of the 5 pillars of Islam. For listeners that are not familiar with our faith, Islam is a monotheistic religion. It's in the same tradition of Judaism and Christianity. It basically follows, you hear this idea of Judeo-Christian beliefs. It's actually monotheistic beliefs, the belief in a higher being, like a God. But in fact, in the Muslim tradition, we believe that all those religions are actually all the same religion. And the name of it is Islam, which means submission. So for us as Muslims, we believe from the time Allah, or God, Allah just happens to be the Arabic word for God, that from the time God created this world, He chose Islam as the religion for mankind or humanity. So from the time of Adam and Eve up until Muhammad, peace be upon them, the religion that He's always sent to His people, to humankind, is Islam. It's people themselves that changed it and renamed it to other things and tweaked it or, customized it to their own ways. So for example, when you think of Judaism, it's renamed after, Judah, which is basically one of the tribes of Israel. And if you think of Christianity, it's named after Christ. So the followers named it that. They themselves, the prophets that came to those communities, did not themselves, say, hey, join Judaism or join Christianity. At least that's from the Muslim belief. Islam, instead of being called after the name of the prophet that came with Islam, Muhammad, so it's not called the religion of Muhammad or Muhammadans or Muhammadis. It's called Islam. And we know that because God in our Quran, which we believe is the final revealed scripture from God, He says, I chose Islam for you And by the way, this Islam is the same religion of Adam and Eve and Noah and Abraham and John and Isaac and Jacob and all the other prophets you know about in the Bible. And they came before you. They came with the same religion. I gave them scripture. And they all came with a message. And the message, the universal message to all of them is to believe in the oneness of God and to worship that God and to treat others as you treat yourself. And that there will come a time when this world will end and people will be, all the people that had died will be resurrected, and there'll be a judgment, and there'll be a life after death, a hereafter, where there's heaven and hell. And those that believe in God will be rewarded because they believed in God, and those that don't will not be rewarded. So that's the essence. So when it comes to fasting, God tells us in the Quran that fasting has been prescribed for us, just as it has been prescribed before us. So the Quran and Muslims recognize that God has also prescribed or ordered other communities before us to do this type of fast. And for us, it's a fast of 30 days. And he says that the purpose of it is to attain piety. In Arabic, the Arabic word is called taqwa, but there's no real one translation to English. But in essence, people just kind of translate it to piety, to get close to God. So it has a number of benefits. But for Muslims, Ramadan is a month of fasting. It's not just one day. It's not like Lent, where it's like 40 days abstaining from certain things. It's an absolute fast where there's no eating or drinking at all, not even water, for a period of 30 days every day from pre-dawn until sunset. So during those hours, daylight hours, it's actually an hour before sunrise that you have to stop eating. And until sunset, you can't eat or drink anything during that time. And after sunset, you're permitted to eat, and there's extra worship and extra acts of kindness. It's really a holy month for Muslims.
We'll talk about that because it's very integral and important part of Ramadan. But if we are looking at us here, you and I in Florida, so it means the last meal we can have is around 5:45 a.m. and then we can eat at around 6:32 p.m. Correct?
Right, until the time changes next week. And it throws everything off.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange, Ahmed, because like you said, it's so difficult to all of a sudden, like Friday, you were living a normal 11 months of your life, and then all of a sudden, on Saturday, you are abstaining from water and drink. And so you're just adjusting to the times, and then boom, we have this change of time. So what's going to happen is that I think we will abstain around 6:45 a.m. and then eat at 7:30 p.m. And I find that very difficult.
So this is going to be that's the effect of daylight savings time, which the clock will change Sunday at 2 a.m. and that will change things around. So I mean, it's still about the same amount of hours where you're actually not eating or drinking, but for one night, I guess you'll have an extra hour. Technically, but I mean, the idea is basically, I mean, the thing is, you can abstain. You can eat up until about 5:45 a.m. right now.
Do you do that?
Most people don't. They just, eat like their meal at nighttime before they sleep. And then, I think a small percentage will get up.
Do you do that? Do you wake up?
Yeah, I try to, but sometimes, because my schedule is really upside down, I'm staying up late, going to bed like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. So I'll have my meal then, and then I'll wake up for Fajr. But the thing is, let's say you wake up at 6 a.m., 15 minutes after. You're not allowed to just say, oh, let me grab a drink of water. Oh, I missed the time. You're not allowed to if you miss, if it's past the time. And it's like an honor system with God. I mean,
Yeah, nobody is watching.
there's no Ramadan police. So, and it's amazing because you're talking about, over 1 billion people that are doing this all together at the same time worldwide. You're, a fifth of the world population, or a fifth of the world population starts Ramadan, ends Ramadan at the same time around the world. And of course, different places have different times for sunrise and sunset. It's
And
staggered
yeah.
around the globe.
And some in the north, Ahmed, I think Scandinavian countries, I think the poor people are fasting way more than us. Isn't that correct? Like if we are fasting,
Depends on the season. Yeah, like if you Google, where is the longest Ramadan,
I think Sweden and even in very north of Canada, it's very difficult.
So here it says Greenland. Oh, Greenland. That's
Oh my gosh, it's
Trump
going to
wants
become
take.
an American city. City.
Greenland and Iceland will have the longest fasting hours, over 16 hours, while fasting in India will last about 13 hours and 45 minutes.
Wow.
So the longest is in Greenland and Iceland because they have less sunlight during the winters. And by the way, the other thing that I wanted to mention that is that's also unique in this, Ramadan is a lunar month. Just like the Jewish community also follows, and some other communities around the world, they follow, their calendar follows a lunar calendar instead of a solar or the Georgia calendar that we know, Georgian calendar that we know. That our month, because a lunar month is about 29 to 30 days instead of 30 to 31, and so every year, the month of Ramadan actually starts about 11 days earlier. So this year, Ramadan started on March 1st. However, next year, it's going to be like February, maybe 20th.
Yeah.
And then the year after that, it'll be February 10th.
Yeah.
And after that, it's going to start going into January. So Ramadan actually rotates the month of Ramadan. It's never at the same time every year. It takes a 30-year cycle or a 33-year cycle to come back to the same exact start time. So whatever we're doing now, it's going to be another 30 years from now before we actually come back to this exact time. So there are times, a few years, like not a few, maybe 10 years ago or more, Ramadan was in June.
In the summer.
In July, where actually the days are longer, it's warmer, it's hotter. So it's not always like at the same time. And that's the same thing for all Muslim holidays. They're never at the exact same, season. So it's unique from Christian holidays where, for example, Easter is always at the same time, or Christmas is always in the winter. Our Ramadan could be in the summer. Years later, it's going to be in the winter, and then, it goes around the whole year.
Ahmed, let me remind our listeners, this is True Talk on WMNF 88.5 FM, and I have to thank our listeners who helped Ahmed and I reach our goal and helped WMNF as a station to reach its goal and probably exceed it. And I'm talking to my co-host Ahmed Bedier about Ramadan. It's the fasting month. We are going through the fasting month, and like Ahmed said, more than 1 billion Muslims are doing exactly what we are doing, not having a radio show, of course, but fasting from sunrise to sunset. And we are doing it here in Florida, Ahmed and I. And Ahmed, and if anyone has a question, please send it to dj@wmnf.org, dj@wmnf.org, or you can call 813-239-9663. 813-239-9663. Ahmed, okay, I'm not sure if you mentioned in the beginning, you said this is one of the pillars of Islam. Did you go through them very quickly? Maybe I was distracted because maybe people don't know what are these 5 pillars. So when you say...
in order In order to be a Muslim, you have to actually believe in 6 things and do 5 things. So the 6 things that a Muslim has to believe in order to be a Muslim, is they believe in the oneness of God and that Muhammad is the last messenger of God. So the oneness of God, meaning that God has no, nothing came before God, nothing comes after God. God is this, in Arabic, the name of God is Allah. And this super being or higher being, or however you want to categorize it, is completely different than mankind or humankind. He created everything, and everything depends on him, and no one created Allah, no one created God. This is the belief from the Muslim belief when you say there's no God but God, or no God but Allah. He has no partners, he has no children, he's not gotten or begotten, and everything depends on him. We use he's described in the masculine, but he's actually does not have a gender, so it's not a he or a she. It's just for language purposes that we say that male and female genders are unique to our world for increasing our procreation and other things, but it's not in the higher beings. It's different. They're genderless, I guess. It's kind of interesting.
Like angels,
because,
for instance.
yeah, like they don't have a
a female angel or a male angel.
Right.
Or the devil.
So their
Although there is a
souls.
dispute over that.
Yeah, is the devil a human or a male or female?
No, I'm just
Well,
kidding.
actually, but I think in the jinn, because devils
Jinn.
in the Muslim tradition come from jinn, and the devils or Satan is like a bad jinn. And a jinn is a different being than a human being. God created all these different beings, and humans were unique, that they're different than the other creation that God has made. Everything that we know, including gravity and the universe and the stars and everything that we see and we don't see, in the Muslim faith, we believe God created everything, and all that works together in harmony. And so, and that Muhammad is the last messenger, it means basically that by acknowledging that, you acknowledge and believe, we believe in all the messengers before Muhammad, from, the beginning, all the prophets and messengers,
From
all the way
Adam.
until Muhammad, from Adam. That includes, we believe in Moses, we believe in Abraham, we believe in Jesus. Jesus to us is a messenger and a prophet. He's not a deity. He is a human being that was sent just like Muhammad to his people to bring them closer to God, and he had a message from God. Now, we do believe in Jesus, that he is that he was born of a virgin birth, that this miraculous birth, and so he's unique in that sense, but he's still a human being. So one is believing in the oneness of God, and Muhammad is the last messenger. So, that's a proclamation. So I'm sorry. So the 6 things that Muslims have to believe in is, 1, the oneness of God. So believing in God, his angels, believing in the angels of God, his messengers, all the messengers, that I mentioned, his books. These are that God, Allah, has sent sacred, revealed scripture to mankind through these messengers. So Muslims actually have to believe in the Torah. They have to believe in the message of Jesus, which is basically the gospel as it was revealed, not as it's written today, and the Quran, and other scriptures that were sent to other prophets. We have to believe in all of them, and we have to believe in life after death, that there, and the day of judgment, that after we die, there is, we're resurrected to this day of judgment. And we have to believe in something called divine decree or divine predestination, that God has a decree and it will come to pass. So things like somebody dying, this is part of God's decree. We have to accept it. It's not like we don't believe in it. So those are the 6 things that Muslims have to believe in. And the 5 things that Muslims have to do in order to be classified as Muslims, they have to make the declaration of faith. They actually have to utter the words that they believe that there's no God to worship except the one true God, the Creator, Allah, and that Muhammad is his servant and messenger. And by doing that means you believe in God and you follow the example of Muhammad. And we have to, the second thing to do, that Muslims have to do, is perform 5 daily prayers. The third thing is to give an annual charity that's mandatory for all Muslims. And it's about 2.5%. It's called zakat. Mm-hmm. It's about 2.5% of your unused wealth. This is not like based on your income. It's based on money that you haven't used in a year. So it's your savings,
wow,
your capital, your stocks, things that you are not using. And for Muslims, that's the idea behind that is that wealth should not be stagnant. Just hoarding wealth and holding on to it is not something that, in order to purify that wealth in the Muslim concept and belief, you have to give 2.5% of that to the poor specifically. It can't just be sent like, I want to
not to
give
family.
One, you cannot give it to family because that's already a requirement, but you also cannot just give it to anything charitable. Like you can't give it to a university for for like a program. It has to be specifically to poor people.
Okay.
And there's like different categories for that. So it's called the zakat. And then the Muslims have to fast the month of Ramadan, the full month. In order to be a Muslim, you have to fast the month of Ramadan. So that's why it's one of the pillars. And then the final is to perform the Hajj once in your lifetime, if you're able to. And the Hajj is basically this pilgrimage to go to Mecca, a holy city, the most sacred city for Muslims is called Mecca. It's what is in now common day Saudi Arabia. Of course, when Muhammad was around, and before 100 years ago, it was not called Saudi. It was just called Arabia or the Hijaz or Mecca. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have these borders. So people from all over the world, go there and they make a pilgrimage, and it has to be done in a specific time of the year. It's in about 3 months from now. And that's called the Hajj. But you have to be able to financially afford it and physically able to do it. So those are the 5 things Muslims have to do. Critical to that is Ramadan. So a person who says they're Muslim but does not perform Ramadan or observe Ramadan, then technically they're not really Muslim. They kind of fall outside.
Unless, sorry, Ahmed, unless of course they are sick, and of course pregnant women or. But what I'm saying is. They have to. Those people still observe it, but they just don't participate in the not eating part. So everybody has to fast in Ramadan, except, like you said, the people that are sick, women that are nursing, people that have a terminal illness, or people even that are traveling during the month of Ramadan are exempt from the fasting. But all of them, except the people that are permanently sick or terminally ill. They have to make up those days. So for example, if you are somebody who cannot fast anymore, then you can pay to feed a fasting person. That would be your way to make up for not fasting. So for somebody, for example, that has a cancer or a terminal illness, or they have diabetes and they have to eat regularly, then they basically, every day that they don't fast, they have to donate to feed somebody else that is fasting, or just feed someone else, and it should be the same amount that you would spend on your own meal. So it's not like a set number. I think in Florida,
so for example, if you're used to spending $50 on your meal, then that's what you would give. To feed somebody else.
The mosque, I saw Brother Hatem send a link saying that they calculated that if you want to pay for help a person to break his or her fasting, it's $15 a day.
Oh, okay.
So I think, for instance, in Egypt, it is much cheaper. But there are ones, for instance, that are doing it in Gaza, which is extremely more expensive. Although they are getting less food, but because of the genocidal war on Gaza. Ahmed, when I was thinking about doing this show and you and I were talking about it, I thought, it might be lame or maybe people might not be interested. I have like 6 or 7 or 8 emails at least and questions that came through the phone. So are you ready?
Wow.
Yeah. First of all, John sent an email and he says, thank you so much for sharing this with us. And then we have somebody who says, Ramadan Mubarak. I hope I have spelled it correctly with you. And then, I have a question that says, is fasting healthy? And I think the other question would be that he or she are asking, does it mean, Ahmed, that you are doing this fasting for 30 days from sunrise to sunset, that you are healthier and that Muslims in general are healthier or feel better? That's a question that we got. Are Muslims living longer because of this fasting?
I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, but definitely if you fast, there's been studies out there that show that people that fast regularly, it's actually detoxing the body, is good for your body, to give your body a break. And people that do fast, somehow it has healing, miraculous power. People that do fast, in the proper way, they can get rid of, things like potentially high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, and other things, because you're detoxing the body. These are the things that you get. However, unfortunately, and that's, and 2 things. One, when you say that, and I'm not a religious scholar, but usually like imams and scholars will say, well, that's not the purpose of fasting. It's not the health benefits. That may be a byproduct of the fasting, a secondary benefit, but that's not the real, goal. The real goal of fasting is to practice self-restraint, to self-discipline, to control your desires, your nafs. And this is something that's critical to Islamic beliefs, is that God has instilled in us these desires, the desire to have money, to enjoy things, to eat and drink, and you gain certain pleasure, whether intimacy with your spouse and other things. There are pleasures that God had instilled for us and desires, and humankind, if they don't check their desires, when it gets out of control, that's when things go wrong. Mm-hmm. That's when evil starts coming in. Acquiring wealth there's that desire in us, but when it becomes to excessive levels where it's greed, it hurts other people and it hurts us. So you see now we live in a society where it's completely contrary to that, where, give me as much as I want, do, consumerism, individualism, only worry about myself, no one else. And part of that also essential part of that is feeding other people. So you're controlling yourself, you're restraining yourself, and you're not restraining yourself from things that are unlawful. It's not like, don't go.
Don't do drugs, for instance.
Yeah, no. Don't do drugs, or, I'm going to be like, this is a dry month. I'm going to be sober for the month of January after the holidays, because I want to not get drunk. Well, for Muslims, drinking alcohol is already, not allowed. It's forbidden. So the restraining that we're doing is from things that are already allowed.
And maybe we like and love. Having tea in the morning or coffee.
Yeah, it's just, so you're restraining yourself and controlling your desires from things that are just normal behavior that are already allowed. So when you train yourself like that, a training period, a boot camp for 30 days, where you're controlling that. After the idea is after the 30 days are over, you're kind of in a way cleansing yourself.
That's the challenge.
Physically, it's a challenge, but it should give you enough boost. Mm-hmm. Hey, I was able to control myself all that time. then I should, sustain me going forward. And, people like religious leaders or imams will say, you should come out of Ramadan like rejuvenated and change one of your bad habits, at least one or two things that you kind of, you come out of this month like sticking with what you learned. Like, okay, not overeating, not over drinking, and there's also there's also a behavioral component to the fasting. So for example, in fasting, you definitely, things that could nullify your fast other than eating and drinking, like void your fast, would be, for example, like cursing someone out, lying, cheating somebody, obviously like stealing, or doing any of the things that are already forbidden. That could nullify and void your fast. So it's not just like just abstaining from eating and drinking, and you can go out and you're fighting with this person and
or cursing or
person,
using bad thoughts or ideas.
Yeah, or like spreading like lies and creating divisions and hatred or hurting someone else. No, that will void your fast. So
and that's very difficult, Ahmed, because I was driving on 75 yesterday, and then my husband looked at me and he says, Samar, stop it. You're going to ruin your fasting.
Why? What were you doing?
Oh my
without
God.
having to confess.
The driving of people sometimes is like,
the frustration.
It took me 3.5 hours. Can you believe it? I left my city at 2 p.m. I arrived at 5:30. From traffic on 270 on I-75. So that's part of discipline. I needed, like the whole time I was trying to remind myself, be calm. I mean, you're not in a war zone. It's just traffic. Calm down. And it's difficult, Ahmed. I mean, it's easy.
It's a test.
Yeah, I failed it completely, miserably. Yes, I failed. I have, but go ahead, because I have many questions, Ahmed. It's fascinating that people are interested in this topic. But this is True Talk on WMNF 88.5 FM. My co-host Ahmed Bedier is telling us about the experience of Ramadan, which is a religious, an integral religious part of Islam, and it's one of the pillars of the faith. And I have this interesting comment, Ahmed, but it's also a question that many people ask me about and are interested in knowing. And it says, there is an interfaith dinner at Rising Tide International tonight. I am going there, this person, Fez, to the center in Sarasota. I don't know anywhere else here locally to get this celebration. And then he is fascinated by what you have said, that there is a 30-year cycle. But this is a very good question, Ahmed. How many mosques we have in town, and can people go, for instance, or is there an open house? Like, this is a question I always get to ask in my town, and we always invite people over the weekend. What's going on here in Tampa?
So in Tampa, there are mosques. Every mosque in Tampa has some sort of Ramadan program. You should reach out to them for that. And you can, you're welcome to join them. Some mosques, I don't have the calendar in front of me. Maybe we can share it like next week to find out what are some of the community fasts or breaking fast. I know the city of St. Petersburg every year does a community fast. Community breaking fast. And that's what it means. Like, okay, when we fast, the meal that we have in Arabic is called iftar, which really means breakfast. And, breakfast is really, you're breaking your fast. That's where the word breakfast comes from. So when we have our, breakfast, which is our break fast meal, it's instead of having it in the morning, we're having it at sunset. And the city of St. Petersburg, for a number of years, I don't know what the date is this year, I'll look it up online, does a big, community breakfast event. Maybe we can look it up and get the date, but check with the city of St. Petersburg. They have it in the big Coliseum, 1,000 people.
Yes, sir.
Last year, I don't see the 2025 yet, but maybe we'll find it and let you
Okay.
know. But reach out to your local mosque, give them a call. They have events, like, for example, the masjid in Sly and Orient every night has a breakfast meal, and it's open to the public. You can stop by. You might feel a little out of place and nervous going in, but just walk up and say, "I'm here for the breakfast."
Yeah.
And usually when they have it at the mosque, so the breakfast happens right at sunset. There is a call to prayer. And whether you're at home or you're at the mosque, you wait for that call to prayer. And you're literally going by the minute. You can't do it like a minute earlier. And you break your fast with something light like water. And the tradition is to have it with dates, these palm dates. And then most of the time they'll perform the
Prayer.
sunset prayer. It's called Maghrib, and it takes only maybe 5 minutes, and then you start eating. Now, somebody else asked earlier about the health aspects.
Yeah, and actually, part of this question also, and I think you answered it, but is it religious or health based?
What the
fasting.
fast is a religious. The fast purpose, the primary purpose for fasting is not for health reasons. That is with all things, there are multiple reasons, but the main reason is to attain piety. In fact, some people describe it as like a training camp or a training period for Muslims to attain what's called God consciousness. Somehow, when we're more hungry and our stomach is empty, our brain is more stimulated. Imagine yourself after you eat a meal, you get kind of tired, and sleepy, and you can't really focus too much. Imagine like going to a class after you've had like lunch. You're kind of just out of it. You're not really focused. But when you're hungry, your senses are enlightened. You're more attentive, you're more focused because all that blood is in your brain. Just physically. And it's supposed to be a time. So while we're physically a bit weaker, however, spiritually, Muslims are more spiritual during this month because when you're hungry, somehow your spirit, it's like a spiritual strengthening program.
Yeah.
And it reminds us of our dependence on God that, I'm hungry. But if all your desires are met and you have a full stomach and you're this and you're like, you don't really think about God at that time. You think about God usually when, you need something. Oh, you're hungry. Well, why am I hungry? Oh, I'm doing it for God. Okay, then it enhances that. It's the same thing, I think, also for people that do Lent or Yom Kippur in the Jewish faith. The central focus is to get closer to God. I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing it because God asked me to do it for God, for Allah. How many things are we giving up because God asked us to?
A lot.
Especially, but I just want to the last thing I want to mention is it healthy? If you do it the right way, it's really healthy because it detoxes the body, all that stuff. But unfortunately, for Muslims around the world, the majority has become culturally that it's like,
they overeat.
Ramadan is like the month of feasting.
Yeah.
So we are fasting all day, but come sunset, so many people now culturally are doing these major dinners, banquets, events. It's a time they invite everybody over to their house. So many families will invite others. It's like an annual thing that people look forward to. And the people at the mosque and the religious people keep reminding us that, hey, this month is not about, eating. This month is actually about abstaining. And even when you break your fast at night, you should just break it with something light, not all this elaborate and, exquisite luxury meals. That defeats the purpose. And then some people actually, instead of losing weight in Ramadan, they actually gain weight because they eat so much at night. And, so that's not healthy either.
I'm not from those people, Ahmed. Actually, I lose weight and I exercise. But two things I want to make a comment. One is something that you told me maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago, and every Ramadan I remember you. You told me you have so much time on your hands. And I remember you telling me that, but I know that you are very busy and you always do stuff. But then you said, I didn't realize that eating takes so much time. And every time Ramadan starts, I remember you because, yes, even if I want to do breakfast for myself, it takes time. Even if I want to grab a sandwich, it takes time. So this is something that I always remember you with Ramadan, because you told me that, and I never paid attention how much time there is to worship, actually, if we wanted to, or to do things. This is one thing. The other thing, something very weird happened to me last year. I was in Egypt and fasting, and I had like pains in my body. It's very difficult to explain. It's like, I mean, I don't have arthritis, but like, or osteopenia, but I don't know how to explain it. And then it went away after 3 days. And then maybe a few months later, I saw a friend of mine, and she said she went on a water fasting. And she said, I said, okay, how does your body react? And she says, pains in your body. And I said, why? She says, because all the toxins are leaving your body when you fast. So I think this is what happened to me last year. There was so much toxicity or whatever in my body, and I was in pain for 3 days, muscle pain in your neck, in your arms, in your legs, and they were gone. Thank God this year I have been eating very healthy. None of that, Ahmed. So this is like a side product, like you said, of Ramadan. I don't know if it happens to you or not.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. I mean, if for everybody, it's Ramadan is also, I mean, so there's a general, and then also just for everyone, there is this uniqueness about it, how it can help them. It's...
Many people quit
in a way,
smoking, I think.
Yeah, it's also designed to heighten the self-awareness, which allows us to break bad habits. Like you were just saying, like, okay, I didn't realize how much time I'm actually spending on eating. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, we just finished breakfast.
Or thinking about food.
Yeah, or thinking about food. Like, what am I going to have for lunch? Oh, what's the plan for dinner? And then, going to the store and grabbing the things and prepping, and just so much time that goes into it. It's not just the eating part, like the preparation. And then the other things, like somebody, for example, that drinks too much, or, well, they're not supposed to be drinking, but maybe they have too much coffee, for example. Mm-hmm. Like, they're drinking 6 cups of coffee a day. Maybe reducing it to 1, because during this time, you're not having your coffee at the regular time. And then if you're going to decide to have coffee at night, then you're worried about, how am I going to sleep? And I'm not going to get a good, So a lot of people get their detox from coffee, during Ramadan. And especially the first couple of days, it can be really difficult for people that are addicted to caffeine, because they'll get headaches and they can't take any like medicine. You can't, mm-hmm. you can't take medicine in Ramadan if you're actually sick. But for a headache, that's not an excuse to break your fast, unless it's like a super migraine and you physically are so ill that, you'll decide that you'll make up that day another day. But our dependence on things. And so breaking bad habits and then maybe cultivating, better new ones is a way in Ramadan. So, for example, saying, you know what, I'm going to do a morning walk, or I'm going to spend more time reading the Quran, or I'm going to help other people. I'm going to give more in charity. So Ramadan is also the month of charity. Mm-hmm. Muhammad, peace be upon him, our prophet that we follow his example, was the most charitable during the month of Ramadan. And God in Islam has a reward system for Muslims. If you do good, your reward is multiplied, like the more good you do, and especially if you do good in a holy month like Ramadan, it's even multiplied even more. So for Muslims, they actually try to increase their charity or their good deeds or good activities or being kind to others during these holy months to have a multiplication impact on their reward. And when are we going to cash in on this reward? It's actually after we die. So Muslims really believe in a life after death so much that they will invest in their hereafter by doing these good deeds. That's not to say, some people might say that, well, you think you're going to, like, this is a bartering system with God, you buy yourself way to heaven. No, it's not. It's just a way to increase. So at the end, we basically believe that, there's no matter what we do, it's not enough to actually enter heaven in the hereafter. It's actually by the mercy and grace of God that we do. However, these things help us get there, and I think it's a type of reward system that God puts in place to to urge Muslims and believers to actually do more. In as far as the good deeds.
Again,
I mean, there's so many benefits. We talk about Ramadan the
Yeah.
whole month.
Ahmed, we have like 4 or 5 minutes, and I have one more question that I know it's going to take a while to answer because it's somebody who really knows probably some about prayers. But again, this is True Talk on WMNF, and my co-host Ahmed Bedier is talking about this holy month of Ramadan, where a billion Muslims all over the world are celebrating it, fasting from sunrise to sunset. And we got very interesting questions, Ahmed. One of them about the special prayer. I think somebody heard you say that the people know that we pray 5 times a day, but what is it about the special prayer that you just mentioned at the beginning?
So in Ramadan, there's a special prayer that is done in addition to the 5 daily prayers. The 5 daily prayers are mandatory and required to do in order to remain or be a Muslim. However, in Ramadan, there are special prayers called Taraweeh or Qiyam. These are additional optional prayers. However, they're performed at all mosques and congregation worldwide, and they start after the last prayer. So at sunset, you have your meal, you do the sunset prayer, have your meal, and about an hour later, there's the night prayer, or an hour and a half later, it's the night prayer. And then after that, there are basically anywhere from 8 to 20 more prayers that are done that take about an hour to an hour and a half of praying at the mosque in congregation. Not everybody does it, but it's performed at all mosques around the world. They're called Taraweeh, and they're special prayers basically, again, to put God in the center of your life and to say, that, all this time that we're giving up during the month of Ramadan from other things, we're spending it in prayer, seeking God's forgiveness, seeking God's mercy, seeking blessings, asking for things. So it's a beautiful time where people are congregating daily. So for example, I go to the masjid every day in Ramadan. Normally that's not the case for me, and it's not the case for the majority of Muslims.
And you see everybody in the community. But I just want to go back to one detail you may not have mentioned, that in this extra prayer, we started by starting from the first verse of the Quran. Can you, we have half...
Yeah, so the Quran, this is another thing. The Ramadan is also known the month of the Quran. The Quran was actually started being revealed in the month of Ramadan. This is the holy book that we follow. And after it was revealed starting in the month of Ramadan, it continued to be revealed for a period of 23 years. It was compiled over a period of 23 years as a revelation from God directly to Muhammad through the angel Gabriel. And for us in Ramadan, we try in all the mosques during Taraweeh prayers, they'll start from the beginning of the Quran and to the end of the Quran, finishing it during the month of Ramadan. And individually, Muslims are encouraged to read the entire Quran from beginning to end during this month. They divide it into 30 parts, and then they read 1 part per day. And that again helps us at least to read the Quran in its entirety once a year, and then helps us get closer to God.
We're getting out of time. Ahmed, thank you so much for talking to us about Ramadan. Ramadan Mubarak, inshaAllah.
Yeah, we're still going to be here next week with Ramadan fasting. Thank you.
Inshallah. I hope you enjoyed this special show. Ahmed was telling us about the holy month of Ramadan. And thank you so much for supporting WMNF and for supporting True Talk. We were able to meet our goal. It's so important to keep diversity alive. WMNF Tampa, The Scoop is next.